How's everyone doing today? How was your Monday? First Monday in August, new month. How's everybody? Good morning, Olga. How are you? Good to see you. All right. So, what's the scoop? Well, actually, what I wanted to do this morning is have everybody tell me what their experience has been with the new shipping if you've had a show or a couple of shows. So it's been kind of interesting because I've been watching and everybody's been doing something slightly different. So yes, it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I was just saying, how was everyone's Monday yesterday? Yeah. You've lost your mind and the shipping is insane. Okay. I don't think it's insane. It's not that bad. If you set it up correctly. So I did something for this show just to experiment with something because I was curious to see. So, can you guys tell me if it shows on your screen? You know how when you have reduced shipping on, it has that little banner that goes across the top and says something like, max, whatever. And then also, does my banner on the thumbnail say reduced shipping? Do I have the reduced shipping banner on my thumbnail? Because I did something because I wanted to experiment with it today. So I'm looking at it on my iPad and it doesn't have it, but it doesn't have it on my iPad on any of my shows. But I do have reduced shipping set up on all of them. So, okay, that's curious. So you guys are not seeing it. Let me look on mobile to see what it shows. So give me a second. Okay, so the reduced shipping banner is on my other shows, but not on this show. So what I did, because I was experimenting, because I saw someone last night who claimed that they put that they were keeping the 921 reduced shipping. And I'm like, why would you do that? That makes no sense. And yet in her show, she had the banner saying 775. So I'm like, obviously you have 775 in there, not 921 as you are thinking you have. Um, so I had changed, I went in and changed this show to 921 just to see. And it did take the reduced shipping banner off and it's not showing you guys reduced shipping. That's because I have my shipping set at 1 to 5 pounds, 775 ground advantage, and 5 pounds and over flat rate, 12.99. So that's what I have my settings set at right now for all my shows. Because the only way you can get the reduced shipping banner is to have the threshold of whatever shipping rate you have chosen for the 1 to 5 pounds. It has to be the same or less than that rate. So if you have 1 to 5 pounds set for the ground advantage 775, if you want the reduced shipping banner, you have to have buyer pays max 775 or less in order to get the reduced shipping banner. Okay. Now, if you put it at flat rate for both 1 to 5 pounds and 5 pounds and over, then anything less than 12.99, I would think would give you the reduced shipping banner. But then your buyers are paying more than the cheapest rate, which is 775. So that is what that is. All right. So what I want everyone to do is please share in the chat with a question mark what shipping was for you over the weekend and how it went. This 0.78 giveaway isn't working anymore. It worked in the past and now it isn't. They are combining shipping with and said it needs a custom profile. It is still working for me. So I'm not sure what they're telling you on that. Um, so double check in your settings to make sure that. So let me just pull up. It didn't change for me. Did it change for anyone else? The first class mail letter. So in your shipping settings, first thing to check is make sure it's turned on. So I'm just in shipping settings. Make sure it's turned on. And then if it's not turned on, turn it on and make sure you check the little box to apply to existing shows before you hit save. Okay, so that would be the first thing to check. And then the next thing to check would be to make sure that when you are loading it, because now that they've changed the way you list things, it automatically fills in a category on your listing. When you create a listing, it automatically defaults to the last category you used. So if you made a listing and it was like under quilting, fabric sewing, and then you go to create a new listing, so you're going to create your giveaway. And if you don't notice that it put it under quilting, sewing, fabric instead of stickers or trading cards, then that's the problem. So you have to make sure that your category for the item that you enter as your giveaway is sticker or trading card, because it won't work under any other categories. So that's my guess is what happened is people are not noticing that the category automatic. It's kind of nice that it fills in because it's one less step if you're, entering a bunch of listings. But if you don't pay attention that it defaults to something and it wasn't sticker or trading card, it's not going to work. So that would be my guess. And then the third thing, obviously, is the weight. You need to put it in at 0 to 1 ounces or 1 to 3 ounces. 0 to 1 makes sense because then you don't get charged the higher rate. Okay. All right. Let's see. I didn't experience that. Do you have the less 1 ounce toggled? Yeah, that's what I was saying too. I didn't experience it either. 1 to 5 ground, 775, 5 pounds and over, flat, 12.99 for reduced banner. So, Olga, are you saying that you put 12.99 and got the reduced banner? Because I just experimented on this show and put 9.21 and it didn't give me the reduced banner, which is less than 12.99. So, okay, so you did triple check. I sent a screenshot. Did you check the category though? The category on your listing is what matters. And you can't really see it once the show's over because your listings for giveaways disappear. Can you mail a fat quarter in a plain white envelope? Um, I have not felt that I feel like it's too thick. I have mailed fat eighths successfully. A fat quarter is a little bit too thick because it can't be more than a 1/4 inch thick. And the problem with fabric in an envelope is unless, I mean, you could press the crap out of it maybe and put a little thin cardboard in there, but then it might get too heavy. And a fat quarter actually weighs, you definitely can't send it at 1 ounce. You would have to send it at like 2 ounces because once you put it in an envelope and press it flat and everything, it's a little bit too heavy. And there's no way to fold it to not have a thick bump in it that I've experienced because of I mean, you can have an envelope just that exact size, I guess. But yeah, some people tell me they've been doing it. So it was sticker category, triple checked everything. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that if you double checked the category and everything was way it was supposed to be, then yeah, something screwed up in your shipping. So Yeah. So if they're, I don't know what they're saying though about telling you to, um, yeah, I don't know about it's, I've never had to use a custom profile. That doesn't even make sense for your giveaways. Yeah, I don't know. I will ask if anyone has, I'll ask in my group chat. Did I set up a custom profile for each weight? I'm experimenting with that, but for yesterday's show, I did. Um, so here's the thought. If you're a volume seller and you have a set budget for how much you're willing to pay of people's shipping cost and you sell in volume, I think it's much easier to sell everything at the same weight. And another advantage of selling everything at the same weight is you can, if you want to, use a custom shipping profile that maxes out by the number of items. And then you can force it to unbundle, you know. But the thing is, if you're selling everything at the same weight and they actually aren't the same weight, then on the back end, you're having to weigh everything and you may get yourself into a pickle if you sell anything heavier than, like if you put your max weight at, let's say, I mean, if you're selling everything at the same weight, and let's say you put it at like 4 ounces. If you're selling a whole bunch of stuff that's actually way more than 4 ounces, then on the back end, um, they didn't get as much, you know, well, they got more by weight than you actually sold, and so then you're having to weigh the package and put in the actual weight, and you run the risk of going over the 5 pounds if they bought a lot and they only paid the 775 if it showed they were under 5 pounds. See what I'm saying? And but if you're a volume seller and you have it in your budget to do that, go for it. you know, go for it because it's going to be easier and it's going to be cheaper for your customers and they're going to be happy because they're going to get more for their buck, more bang for their buck. So it just depends. Is it a problem if your weight on the label is more? No, as long as it's not like, as long as it's not in that threshold range of the 5 pounds, it's not a problem. But it is a problem, but I would be careful with that. I wouldn't want it to be too much more because they are scrutinizing everything. And I've even heard people saying that the post office has flat out just charged a fee for not having the right weight on there. It needs to be more than it weighs, but not, it needs to be as exact as you can get it, is what I'm hearing, because they're scrutinizing everything, because they're overwhelmed with how much they are having to ship and the adjustments that they're having to eat. And they do weigh everything. They just don't automatically, most of the time they're gracious and let your package go through without charging the buyer. But some post offices don't. Some post offices are scrutinizing every package and delivering it or telling the person they have to come pick it up and pay X amount of money to pick up their package. And that's a nightmare for customer service if you have people who are, getting packages with a postage due on it. They're going to be pretty pissed that you didn't send it accurately with the amount they already paid. Let's see. Quilted Moose says, I can't drive right. You've had surgery recently. I use pickup. They messed up my pickup bad yesterday. What did they do? Did they not scan everything? What did they do when they picked up? Because you should be using the in-app scanner, whether they pick up or not. Um, use the in-app scanner no matter how delivering. If you're dropping it off yourself, if you're having them pick up, always use the in-app scanner before they get there. So scan all your packages, because then you've got that picture and the proof that you had the box ready to ship. And then when they pick it up, if they do an additional scan, that's fine, but you've already done your in-app scan. Your field trip quiltings are good. Okay, they sent an email yesterday saying they scanned and picked up. Oh, but they did not. Then they came and picked it up, but said they got more packages than I had. Oh, that's weird. Um, yeah, you may want to try and um, put out there, maybe put out with your, so do the in-app scanning and then put a print and put a scan sheet out with it that already has all they have to do is scan the one UPC instead of every package, and then it's already counted and numbered. That would be my suggestion, is to put the scan sheet out with it. You need help with custom profiles. Right now, a custom profile is not going to help you a whole lot, um, unless you sell everything at the same weight. Because the way custom shipping profiles work right now, you can put a number of items and you can put an incremental weight, but you can't do only weight because it forces you to put what the item weighs, the first, the item you're selling. And then unless you're selling everything at the same weight, it won't max out at weight. It only maxes out at number of items. So, yeah. And I brought it up, but then they brought flat rate back and they didn't really acknowledge my question. So I don't know what's happening with that, but I do know that's an issue. Because if we can't force it to max out by weight, it forces us to sell everything at the same weight. So I don't love that. Um, but you can decide, okay, fine, I'm just going to sell everything by half yard or by 1 yard and have a custom profile that's that weight and force it to max out at 5 pounds if you want to do it that way. And if we don't get a better shipping option for over 5 pounds, then we may have to do that because if they don't change that custom profile so that we can max out by weight. So yeah. Farmer's Debtor said I put the label with the address and a scan code on my boxes, but am I missing adding a label and a scan code on my boxes, but am I missing adding a label? Well, when you go to print the labels, it prints a packing slip and it gives you the option to print both the actual postage label, the one with their address and the UPC code on it, and the packing slip. So if you want to send with a packing slip, you've got packages for me, so you know that little packing slip we include in the box. So those are the two things you can print. The most important one, obviously, is the label that goes on the package because it ain't going nowhere without that. So, yeah. All right, let me sort by questions here, make sure I didn't miss anything. What do they charge for a fat quarter in a small poly? The base rate, which is let me see, what are the rates again? The base rate for Ground Advantage is $4.47. So no matter what you buy up to 4 ounces, it's going to be $4.47. If it's 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce, 4 ounce, it's $4.47. So that's, even if you buy just one coin, if it's going to be shipped in a package, not an envelope, the base rate is $4.47. So Let's see. See what I know is they have shipping for 0 3, but none for 4 to 15 ounces. Well, so yeah, the generic like range listings that Whatnot's always had in there. If you don't want to use those, just create custom profiles for whatever weight you want to use. So I'm responding to Puffin about 4 to 15. Um, because they just have ranges in there. So if you don't want to use those, create your own. So I created um, a bunch of custom shipping profiles. So I don't have them in this show because I'm not selling anything, but let me show you what. And it was kind of a POS, honestly, but I did create some because I'm experimenting with that versus using um, by versus selling everything under one weight. I'm nervous to do that because even though I sell in a pretty high volume, I'm not up there with like House of Coop or with City Stash Fabric where, I'm selling, 2 to 400 items per show. And if you're not volume enough, it's going to really bite you in the butt on the back end if you sell everything at the same weight. So I'll show you what I put in there. Um, so this is what my listings look like. I have, let me put this back to all, reduce this. Okay, so I have, a 2 ounce, a 3 ounce, and then, if I've got, so four. Those are some specific listings, but see how and I numbered them 0, 8, so they stay in order. And it makes it pretty easy because when I'm selling something by weight, I just type that number. So I weigh it and I round up to one higher. So if it weighs, you know, 9.2 ounces, I'm going to sell it at 10 ounces because you need to round up, right? For weight. And then I just type in a 10 and it brings up my 10 listing, my 10 ounce listing. So I'm just doing it that way right now until it really, I was worried it was going to be hard to do that, but that actually made it really easy. I just weigh it and I type in that number. If you want to replicate that, it took me a hot minute to set these all up because I had to create custom listings and custom profiles that weigh that exact weight. But, you know, and I did it all the way up to 20 ounces. And then if I sell anything, I honestly right now am choosing not to sell anything that weighs more than that. So I'm going to sell it by the yard or cut it down, just because for two reasons. I don't want them to reach the max too fast and stop buying. Um, they aren't going to stop buying in my show because I put in the max shipping of 775 and then I have it defaulting to 5, the flat rate over 5 pounds. So they won't necessarily stop buying, but on the back end, I have to pay the everything over the 775 if they do go over 5 pounds. So I would rather sell, and plus not everybody wants to buy 4, 5, 6 yards of something. And I can always put those in buy it now in the marketplace if they do want to buy it, and then they just pay whatever the rate is. Because your marketplace listings, the ones that you don't have in your show, they don't get the reduced shipping. They pay whatever it says they're going to pay. So if I put something in there that weighs, 4 pounds and they want to buy it outside of a show, it's just going to still be that 775, but I didn't have to eat it during a show. That's an option. Um, you know, because you just decide what works for you. Um, because I do feel like they're pushing people to not sell big, bulky items because the flat out truth is shipping isn't free and the Postal Service has raised their rates, period. They've raised their rates for everybody. And, so, big, bulky items cost a lot of money to send, and now that we don't have flat rate, it is. Let's see, can you share how you set up the custom profiles? Well, I just created a listing. So, here's my 2-ounce listing. So I just create a listing, right? And then the shipping weight on that listing, if there wasn't already a profile that works for that, because remember the range profiles like 1 to 3 ounces, it's 3 ounces. Even though you're saying, even though it's a range, it always calculates it as 3 ounces, the top number, right? So for my 3 ounce listing, I just used that one because I didn't have to create one for that because I already have one for 3 that maxes at 3. Does that make sense? So I'll show you. I'll just have you look at the back end of that listing with me. So let me pull it up. Okay, so here's my 3 ounce listing, right? And it just says, um, I just use the word fabric or sewing craft item, 3 ounces as shown live. I kept it very simple. I did say in there no pre-bids, just so people understand it's that you're not, if you buy that listing, right? But then my shipping profile on that one is just the regular 1 to 3 ounce one because there's already one for that, right? But on my listing for 4 ounces, there isn't one for 4 ounces, right? There's only one for 1 to 3 or 4 to 7. And if you use hey, good morning, lovely Pinto. If you use the 4 to 7, then it's actually 7 ounces, right? So I just modded you. So on my 4 ounce one, let me show you what it looks like on the back end. So here's my 4 ounce listing. Oh, that one, I already had a custom profile for 1 to 4. So that's what I used. So that one I had already set up. So let me show you my custom profiles again. Okay, so I just went under shipping profiles. And these, when you're on a mobile device, it's showing you the ones you've created. I've been on here for a long time. I need to go clean this up because I have a bunch of custom ones in there. But let me show you one of the custom ones I set up. So here's one for 13 ounces because that's not one that we already had, right? So 13 ounce. I created this the other day. It just says 13 ounce. I figured I just would use that as the description. And when you look at it, it just says 13 ounces. Make sure it says ounce, not pound. Double check that every time. And then that's all I did with it. That's it, just says 13 ounce, 13 ounce. I didn't choose any bundling or number of items. That's all it is. It's that simple. It takes a hot minute though, like I said, to set them all up if you want to have one for every single weight. And again, if you're selling in volume and this is like, and you have a budget for what you're willing to pay of people shipping, oh well, you know, so, oh, you thought we had to pick the bundling option. Oh, no. Yeah. So, yeah, Lovely Pinto did a very similar thing for her show on Saturday and it went well. Okay, good. Good to hear. Um, if you're selling in big volume and you want to just sell at one size, pick the size you think is going to work best for you and just have one listing and sell out of that one listing at the same weight for everything. And you can somewhat manage it if you mostly sell, the same size of piece of fabric in every show. If you decide I'm just going to be a seller who sells by the yard or half yard, um, great, you know, then sell it all under one listing. And then, yeah, I was just sharing how I have it set, Olga. I have it set for 1 to 5 pounds, ground advantage, 775, 5 pounds and over, flat rate. And then I'm putting in buyer pays max 775. I've had two shows with the new settings. The first show I had one person go over the 5 pounds and I had to pay their $5.24. Field Trip said she did that Saturday night, sold 300 items. She had $100 in shipping. For all ground advantage, my mistake was not using the priority rate. Um, so what do you mean by priority rate? Oh, you didn't have your 5 pounds and over set for flat rate? Ah, okay, yeah. So definitely, I mean, while we still have it, it's to your advantage and the customers, depending on if you're offering a max shipping price. If you're not offering a max shipping price, I still would do flat rate in fabric category. If you're not in fabric, that might not work for you. But in the fabric category, it makes sense, even if you're doing a max shipping, to do the ground advantage at 1 to 5 and 5 and over at priority flat rate, because then it maxes out at $12.99 instead of the higher ground advantage rates. Higher ground advantage rates, if you look at those, let me show you that chart again. It's pretty dang expensive. It goes by, let's see, where did it go? It goes by distance, because they use this, of course, it's government. They have to complicate the heck out of it, right? It goes by zone, which you have no control if someone buying from you lives the next state over or clear across the country, right? I mean, and so you have no control over that. So if you do the flat rate for 5 and over, it's maxed out at $12.99. That's to, even if you're not doing a buyer pays max, that's to your advantage and their advantage, because the most you're going to get charged is the $5.24, which is the difference between the 775 and the 12.99. And the most they're going to have to pay is 12.99 versus these ridiculous rates. Look at this. So here we are at 6 pounds. This is the commercial ground advantage rate postage chart on the post office website, which if you do ground advantage over 5 pounds, these are the rates that they calculate for over 5 pounds. If they live the next state over, it's 987. That's not horrid. But look how quickly at 6 pounds it reaches way more. So if they live in zone 5, it's now 1428, which is more than 12.99. 16, 18, 20, 20. 7 pounds. Look at what 7 pounds does. 8 pounds. I mean, so, and you get up here to in the 10 pound range. Look at that, 25.34 if they live the furthest away from you. So these rates are going to add up quickly for both you, the seller, and your buyers if you're using that ground advantage over 5 pounds and you're selling to anyone that's willing to buy 5 pounds. I would guess if you have your shipping settings set for buyer pays all and you have it set for ground advantage over 5 pounds, people just aren't going to buy more than 5 pounds because they'll see it hit the free shipping, and then all of a sudden they're going to see this extra $9 charge and they're going to just be like, nope, I'm done. Right. The seller picks up the difference if you have it set for a certain buyer pays max. Okay. So if you put a number in that buyer pays max instead of buyer pays all, okay. Lovely Pinto had a customer buy a single half yard. She lives in Alaska. Yep. In Alaska, they don't get the flat rates. She paid over $8 in shipping for one item. Yep. So Alaska and Hawaii are excluded from the 775 and the flat rate. So the post office won't yet let them get the special rates. So it sucks for the people in Hawaii and Alaska. But at the same time, again, shipping isn't free and the post office has raised the rates. It is what it is. Shipping to Canada is so bad that people usually won't pay it. Um, I had some Canadian buyers buying from me before the tariffs, and it wasn't too horrible, but now it's outrageous. So yeah. I don't know what the exact rates are, but yes, it will show them the price. And if they're willing to pay it, fine, you know. But I haven't had anyone on, I'm trying to think. I did have someone from Canada buy from me this year one time. And it seems like I'm trying to remember what it was, something really collectible, like they were willing to pay for it, if that makes sense. And I would see that, just for your average half yard, they aren't going to want to pay the shipping. But, if it's something pretty special, they might, you know, so it just depends. But yeah, I used to have a couple of really good customers that bought a lot from Canada. Although one of them that I had, she had a vacation property in Florida. And so when she would come to the States, she would update her address to Florida, and then she would buy a crap ton of fabric while she was in Florida, and then take it back when she left, or leave some of it at her vacation property and just use it when she was there. So yeah. It's not as bad now that Whatnot has adjusted the shipping. Oh, you're in Canada, Shan. As long as I'm interested enough to buy a few things, it works itself out. Okay, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, because I haven't had any fabric people coming back at all, really. So you have one who's in Australia and sends the item to her sister's house. Yep, there you go. Because people find a workaround if they can. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So what else? So Field Trip Quilting what is telling us that she had her setting set for 1 to 5 ground advantage. She put in a max of $7, so she was willing to pick up the 75 cents. But then for her 5 pound and over, she left it at ground advantage. And the problem with that is she then had to eat not just the 75, but if she had customers that went over the 5 pounds, she had to pay the difference between the 775 and whatever the ground advantage was. She got charged over $100 in shipping. Now she sold a lot of items, but oof, that's a chunk of change, right? So in my show yesterday, I had two people go over 5 pounds. We didn't have a super long show because my granddaughter was coming, but we had two people go over 5 pounds, and I had to pay 11 and whatever 524 is times two. That's 11. No, that doesn't make, oh, because I had a giveaway. So I had to pay 11 something for shipping. You know, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, it is a oof when you haven't been spending anything. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hardly spent anything for shipping for the last 3 years because, we had about the only shipping I paid for was the giveaways, and I always had those at this envelope rate. And so, I paid maybe 2, 3, $4 in shipping. in shows, and then I had the flat rate. And so, and then usually I didn't even use all my adjustments. So, yeah. Let's see. Lovely Pinto says, I did notice that they are not allowing adjustments to upgrade someone to flat rate. I used to be able to do that. Oh, so you do still get your five adjustments, but you tried to upgrade someone to priority and it charged you regardless. It said that wasn't covered with one of your adjustments. Ah, interesting. Okay. So there you go. Um, so what I would do honestly with that lovely Pinto is just change the weight to over 5 pounds and put it in a flat rate. Because then, because then it is that what you did? Yeah, that's what I would do. Because then it's, flat rate. And then you're paying, the difference between the 775 and the 12.99. Yeah. All right. Anyone else have anything that happened? I saw Dirt Hopper in here a minute ago. Do you want to share how shipping's going for you? And here's another observation that I have. So if you decided not to do the he left to go get coffee. Okay. If you decided not to do the buyer pays max at whatever rate, 775 or less, and you didn't do the reduced shipping, did you notice, any difference in, the attendance at your shows? Because I think it won't necessarily affect your um, ongoing, your customers that already come to all your shows. I think it will hurt you though in getting new customers if you don't offer reduced shipping. So, you kind of have to decide. Because if they love to come shop with you, and as long as you have your shipping settings set reasonable, and they're getting mostly just 775, I don't think they're gonna have a problem with it. But because they still get the 775 as long as they buy less than 5 pounds, whether you offer reduced shipping or not. Um, let's see. Bougie did buyer pays all on Sunday and looked like she still did well. Okay. That's good. Can you give us three things that you did to become successful in Whatnot? Um, well, number one is consistency, and I know they say that a lot, but it's the truth. If you want to have regular progressive growth up, you have to be consistent. And what does that mean? It means you got to show up regularly, because if you don't show up regularly and have regular shows, even if your regular schedule is pretty far apart, then it's hard for you to get any traction and grow because you're just not here enough for people to see you enough. So that's the number one thing, is be here regularly. Um, Number two, you've got to be a nice person and be honest and have integrity in your business, because if you don't, people will not support you. So, what do I mean by that? Be nice to people in your shows. Don't, you know, yell at people. Don't, give people a hard time if they don't bid things up. Don't, I don't know, you know what I mean? You go into shows, and if someone's like pissy and rude, and I don't know, maybe some people like to be beat up or yelled at in some categories. I see that, but I don't like that. I leave instantly. So, be a nice, fun, enjoyable person, and that's going to go a long way. I have a thing let me share my 5 F's. If you've never seen it, it's in my auction tab. So if you've never seen this, I think a lot of people have used this and really feel like it just gives you kind of a concise, um, a concise way to look at 5 different things and go, "Am I doing this well?" Because it really is kind of the formula for being able to keep a good trajectory. So I just pinned that. It's the 5 F's, and I'll read through it in just a second. Let me answer the other couple of questions. Nothing different on our show at all. For Fox and Briar, we had 15 new buyers. Awesome. And did you do reduced shipping, Fox and Briar? All right. And then Endless Treasure, did you talk about creating custom profiles versus using the preset ounce ranges? Sort of. If you're going to use, if you want to use a specific weight for each time you sell an item, you're going to need to create custom profiles because there's not enough of those range rates for every weight category. So I did do that. It took me a hot minute, but I feel like unless I get comfortable with selling everything at the same weight, which I'm not comfortable with right now, um, then that's what I'm going to do. So I set up custom profiles for all the ones that don't already have one that maxes out at the number that I wanted. So, like, you can still use 1 to 3 for a 3 ounce item because it's 1 to 3 is 3 ounces for shipping weight. Because even though it's a range, it it sells it at the higher number. So you can still use that one. You can still use set 4 to 7 if you're using 7 ounces. You can still use, 8 to 11 if you're using an 11 ounce item. But otherwise, I set up ones for the other weights. All right. Welcome in, Coastal. And let's see. There are obviously people that like to be verbally abused and manipulated. Those shows have hundreds. Yeah, exactly. It's a vibe. In certain categories, I don't know. It's not for me. I don't have shows very often, and I am always thrilled with whoever shows up. Yeah, so Lovely Pinto is actually a good example of someone who, even though she doesn't have shows very often, she only goes live, sometimes once a month, but that's still a consistency. If she tells people I'm going to be here the first Saturday of every month, and then she has a show that day, that's still a certain consistency. And if she has a captured audience that love her, which she does, they'll show up, so it just depends. But her growth curve is going to be a lot slower than someone who's having shows every day of the week, so it just depends on you. But let's talk about the 5 F's of attracting buyers. Because really, there's some more important things than even having a show every day. If you have shows every day, but you're not doing all these other things well, you're still going to not have good growth and good success. Consistency is important, but having fun, doing a good enough pace to keep people interested, having good stuff. Having good stuff is super huge, especially right now in this type of economy. People are really picky about what they're spending their money on. And, obviously, and if you don't have the right kind of product that people are willing to buy, I'm sorry, it's just not going to go well. So you've got to really be focused in on what people are wanting to buy. And it's totally different in every category, but you got to stay up on top of the trends. So I'll give you a couple of examples in fabric. Okay. So, because that's what we mostly sell. So for a couple of years, I could take Kaif fabric and it would sell like crazy. People would bid it up like crazy. They loved it. They ate it up. Now, Kaif is just not trending. You still have some Kaif lovers that will buy it, but there's not enough people that love it that they're going to bid it up anymore. So I'm kind of holding on to my cape right now, because it's just not selling for what I want it to sell for. Um, batik. Batik was a huge trend for a long time, and now it's kind of flat. Not everybody loves batik right now, so you have to kind of stay up on top of what's trending. And it's not that you can't sell those, it's just that you won't get as much money for them as you wanted to, that or that you used to. Does that make sense? Oh, thank you for the tip, Moto. That was very nice of you. So, you got to stay on top of it. So these 5 F's that I have pinned, if you tap the picture on your screen, tap it again, make it big, take a screenshot. I know some sellers who have printed this out and hung it up. It's just a reminder to look at this and go, okay, am I having fun? Fun, honestly, is one of the biggest things. People need to be enjoying your show. There's so many options now. If they aren't enjoying your show, I don't care how good your stuff is, how long you stay on, if your show is not enjoyable to them. Now, what's enjoyable to one person is different for another than another person. That's obvious because we were talking about the people who scream and yell and you go into their show and every other word is the F bomb. Not for me, but for some people that they love it. Maybe that's what gets them pumped up for the day. Um, you know, so there you go. You had a few buyers say they just want to listen to me talk as you were a Mainer. Oh, that's awesome. So you have that fun Maine little twang, and so they love it. And that's true. I mean, honestly, who doesn't love to be you know, like in fabric, we all love Lisa Works because she has her cute little British accent and she's a doll and she makes shows fun, right? So there are certain things about certain people that just make, they have an advantage because of nothing that they did, just, that's who they are. And and people enjoy their personality. It's funny because in my husband and I's family, um, I have a sister and he has a sister, and we actually use their names as we call it the factor. We use their name and say the factor because they're just one of those people that have magnetic personalities, and people are drawn to them and people just want to hang out with them, and it's not fair. Because that's like, wait, I need to be that person with the magnetic personality so that everybody wants to hang out in my shows, but not everybody gets that gift from God, I guess. But I have a sister, he has a sister, that's who they are, and people just love them. And so my husband actually has 8 sisters. He comes from a really big family. And anytime you bump into someone that knows their family, they always ask about that sister first. Always. How's so and so? Because she's the person with the magnetic personality that everyone loves. And yeah, so sometimes you get lucky and you're the magnetic personality. But regardless, you need to have fun. Oh, well, it's always fun to hang out in people's shows. I wish I could do it more often. Now that I'm trying to survive doing this full time on my own, I don't get to hang out as much as I used to. That I do try and drop in from time to time to everybody's shows. All right, so the next thing on here is fast pace. What does that mean? It means something different to everybody. Um, Fast pace is just the pace that keeps people's interest. And again, that can be different. If you're more of if there's someone who you can't keep their attention in 5 seconds, you're never going to be able to, and they're just not going to be your type of customer because they have the attention span of a gnat and they want you to run everything at 5 seconds or less, sudden death or something. I don't know. so they're just not going to be part of your group if they don't like, how you run your shows. Um, I'm very detailed. Lovely Pinto's very detailed. It's very hard for us to do, boom, 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 and sell fabric because I like people to know what they're buying. I like to show things. I like to explain things. I like to talk about what you can make with it. I probably use more adjectives than I should about everything. Yeah, and then I start talking about something, so I mean, and if people don't like that, then they probably don't come to my shows, and I'm okay with that because I have to feel comfortable about how I run my shows. And I have to feel, like you know, like it works for me how I run my show. And that's important because how you run your show needs to work for you, or you're going to just be frustrated and have anxiety. So it's got to work for how you do it. Um, I do try to at least keep a clip where I feel like people are going to stay interested, although the older I get and my mind blanks out and I make stupid mistakes, I probably lose people sometimes, but that's life. Um, and then the good stuff thing that I talked about, Quilted Moose says, I like to explain and give examples of how I use it. Yes, yes, exactly. Um, because you know, I think that's a big part of it is, and I think that when you add value to items by showing more about what it can be used for and telling what you can make out of it, people are going to really appreciate that because we all enjoy making in our category. So a lot of people really appreciate that, because I've had people tell me, oh, I love that idea. Or I wouldn't have bought that if, you hadn't explained it better. Or, I get the vision now and I love it and I'm excited to get this, and so on. And so you do what works for you, and you'll get the audience that appreciates that. Now, I will say that if you want to be like the big man on the block, then, and you want to appeal to the broader audience, then you have to do certain things. Some things have to be compromised to be able to do that. You just have to decide where you want to fall, And everybody, it's super important to have your own goals in mind. What is my goal? And, if you have a goal written down and you work towards it, you've got to do this, and then you do the things that you think will help you get there, then that's what's important, And sometimes, yeah, like Quilted Moose right now is going through, some medical problems. She's got some limitations of what she can actually do, but she's enjoying what she's able to do. And that's important, you know? And she has her group that love to come and see everything she's doing and making. And that's great, And if you have limitations in your life, don't beat yourself up saying, I can't be here because I'm down here. Well, you have to be here because that's all you can do right now. Don't beat yourself up about it. Be happy and have fun and enjoy the process of what you can do, and then do little things to, make it better as you go along. I think it's important to evaluate every show. Look at your show and what you were able to do in that show, and if there's improvements you can make them, you know so, Marcia says, I don't do this for a living, but love sharing what I have. So my goal is small. Yeah, exactly. And that's great. It takes all kinds of sellers. Exactly. Lovely Pinto. So, yeah. And Quilt Moose says, yes, I'm just happy to hang out in shows and thrilled I can start selling again. Yeah. Don't ever give up. Exactly. So, all of that's super important. So stay focused on what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve, and don't compare yourself to everybody else. And the other thing is you don't know what everybody else's background is. You can only see what's going on in shows, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And don't worry about what's going on behind the scenes in others. I'm just saying that it's just like social media. You laugh because you have to laugh because someone will post a picture of something they made and it's all beautiful and set up and has flowers and everything. And what you don't realize is outside of that 2 square feet that you can see on social media, their house looks like a bomb went off. And you're like looking at that going, oh my gosh, if only my life were so lovely that I could sit there and make these beautiful pies or whatever they're showing, right? Well, their kitchen probably looks like, you know, nuclear war behind the scenes of that little 2 square foot. That's the same on for whatnot sellers. I mean, this is not reselling is not um glamorous behind the scenes for most people. Um, you know, because you may have some huge sellers that have a warehouse and have 50 employees and it runs like a business and it looks pretty awesome and it is, but for the most part it's not that. So remember that and don't beat yourself up. um, Papa says, shouldn't another rule be to not badger the buyer? I click out of shows as soon as I hear bid it up more than once, then complain when it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, but that goes in with, just providing good customer service and having integrity. Don't start something at a certain price if you're not willing to sell it at that, you know? And if you have a model where you do low starts, you have to be willing to sell it at that. And because every day is different on whatnot. And right now, the economy sucks. There's fires. I mean, if you look at a map on that one app, that I downloaded that's called, what is it called? I can't remember right now. But anyway, it shows you where all the wildfires are. I was talking about this the other day in my show. If you pan out, the entire Western United States looks like it's on fire right now. And like Spokane, Washington, 500 homes have burned. Do you think anyone in Spokane is on whatnot buying right now? That's not a priority for people when they're getting flooded and fired and tornadoes. And I mean, it's a hard time right now. And so you're going to have bad days where people just aren't bidding things up. And if that's how it's going, raise your price up and sell less, So you have to roll with the punches the way it works and don't berate your buyers if they aren't bidding things up. Does it suck if you do a low start and it sells for that low price? Yeah, but don't do the low price if you're not willing to sell it for that price. Reba says, what is your advice to be on here more, but offer handmade items that take time? My advice on that is honestly, they don't allow a longer shipping time. And we begged and borrowed and pleaded for it, and they won't do it. So you cannot sell custom items that take longer than 2 days to make, first of all. So you have to have it pre-made. And you can put it out there, but my experience has been people are not willing to pay what it's worth. So in a show, was it yesterday's show? I bought out an estate and I pulled out, and I hadn't even pre-looked at it. I pulled out, it was a kit, and I pulled it out and she had it the entire top of it was a hand appliqued felted wool like runner that had cute pumpkins and everything. It was the whole top was completely made. she had made the binding. It was completely made. And I did that show at Dollar Starts. I pulled it out. I had to run it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this, and it had the pattern and everything there. And it sold for 20 bucks. That sucks. Someone put probably 40, 50 hours into making that because it was all felted wool applique, hem stitched all around all the pieces. I personally didn't make it, but that's what someone was willing to pay for what someone made. I'm like, dang, I probably shouldn't have sold it, but I did. Um, you know, so you have to, if you're going to do handmade, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to be willing to sell it, put your price on there that you're willing to sell it at, period. Because otherwise, you're going to be crying about how much time you spent on something and what people are willing to pay. So do lower cost items that you don't have to spend as much time on making that are cute and people will buy, would be my advice. Now, there are certain niche categories right now that people will spend more money on, and if you get the right audience. But your audience for handmade is not here. These are all the people that make it themselves. You need to put it in the category that um, people are looking. So, like, for example, what I'm talking about is like the people who are upcycling clothing and doing like the t-shirts with the flannel sleeves and making these really cute upcycled tops and stuff. I've seen people spend upwards of $200 for some of those upcycled tops because it's trendy and they're using, you know, cute licensed things that they're upcycling, but you have to be careful with that too. So yeah. So what, Jen? I missed doing my Philobox show because I ended up in the hospital and had surgery. Yikes. I'm sorry to hear that. I have a bunch of Ground Advantage brown boxes, same size, and was going to try doing that. Yeah, I think that would be fine as long as you do a per box and keep them under 5 pounds. Heck yeah, do it. A Philobox 775 up to 4 pounds. Yeah, do it. I think that's a great idea, but just make sure you set your settings with a custom profile, one per box, pre-weighed, and that you have it buyer pays all, so that it set and you tell everyone you're going to pay per box like the other ones. Reva said, I just meant to have more shows, but it takes a week to make my handmade items. What can I offer? Um, Oh, to be able to have more shows. Yeah, again, I would say, you know, things that are really cute that you can make more quickly, less time involved, but that people will still buy. So, people love little bags, people love the bowl cozies, people love the towels, people love, but again, your audience is not the people that can make it. Your audience needs to be in people coming in from other categories that don't hand make stuff that are going to be willing to buy it. So you need to put it under the correct category to attract the right people. And that's still kind of tough on this platform. So, yeah, just trying to be honest about it. It's tough on here. Handmade is tough because I feel bad because I feel like people just don't. It's just not an app right now that's known for handmade yet. And so you just don't have, it's not like you have people looking for handmade items that are coming specifically to Whatnot yet for handmade. And so until is it better than it was? Yes. And if you have a following on social media for something that you make, can you fulfill it through Whatnot? Heck yeah. Just post it like crazy on social media and say, I'm doing a sale on Whatnot. Come buy my items, But if you don't already, it's going to be a tough platform to, you know, because they just don't have the built-in audience for Handmade yet. So, yeah. All right. Let me make sure I didn't miss any questions here. Watch Duty. Yes, that's the name of that app. If you want to have the app on your phone that alerts you when there's wildfires, if you aren't in an area that has them, don't do it because that will just drive you nuts. But I downloaded it because of how many are going on in Utah. I want to have it on my phone to know if something's close, and I want to be alerted because it's really scary right now out there. If I lived in California, in parts of California right now, I would absolutely have that on my phone. Um, there's just certain areas right now that are really at risk because of how much drought we've had in the West. And the trees, the grass, everything is just dry as a bone. It's hot as heck and it's windy. And the conditions are just so scary right now for fires. So, yeah. And I hope you're doing better. So what, Jen? I hope nothing serious. How long did it take me to grow? Um, well, I've been on the platform for 4 years, so I'm not a good comparison. But we have some people in our category now who are less than a year that have almost achieved what I've achieved in 4 years, because that's their trajectory. They want to be able to go that fast and go hard. So it just all depends on your goals. So there are people who've had previous experience in reselling and know how to do certain things. Oh, you had your gallbladder removed. Well, that's actually a good thing because it's better to have it removed if it's bad than have it explode on you. And I'll tell you that from experience because Bert had that happen and it was not good. He was in the hospital for 2 months about 5 years ago. So, yeah. If your gallbladder's giving you problems, go get it checked and get it removed. Because if it explodes on you, you're going to end up in the hospital for months. And it usually ends up ruining some of your internal organs along with it. So, yeah, don't do that. Anyway, so yeah, he's okay, but it was scary. I mean, when that first happened and we went into the hospital, the doctor literally told me, "Sit down. I'm going to tell you that this might not end well." That was how bad it was. So, because he got sepsis and it ruined his pancreas, and he had to have surgery 3 times to go in and clean stuff out. And yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, I don't want anyone. I would not wish that on anyone. Yeah. So, yeah, not fun. Not fun. And 10 years ago, he wouldn't have survived because they've improved so much how they can help people like that. Because it used to be if you got sepsis that bad, it was just the end for you. So, yeah, don't do that. All right, what was I talking about before I got off on that tangent? Yeah, he really is a miracle. He's a walking miracle because it was not good. And it's a miracle that they can take care of people like that well now. All right. Do you want me to go back to what I was talking about, or are we done? Because now I have to remember. Any other concerns, questions, things I can help with? Did everyone get what they needed out of this show? We have a lot of miracle people on here. Yeah, we do, for sure. And it's interesting. That's one of the awesome things about this platform, for me anyway, is I feel like we can kind of go through things with people and get to know them and really encourage and help others if you use it that way. I don't think some categories have what we have in fabric and sewing, and crafting. It's just not the same, but I think we have an awesome community in our couple of categories that we all kind of rotate around in, with quilting, sewing fabric, crafting, junk journaling, those kind of categories. And just some hard, rock solid, awesome, beautiful people that we've met. And we have some, and we continue to meet. We get more awesome people on, and they kind of are like minded. And, it's a beautiful thing. So I love that about it. It has really, made a difference in my life. So I love all of you that are my friends, like Jerry and Lovely Pinto and, everybody in our category. Yep. Oh, I was talking about growth because someone asked how fast. And again, how fast you want to grow just depends on your trajectory. Because I've had some people that came on in my seller chats. Yes, if we can all get to know each other better, maybe we can get better as a country too. Exactly. What not can lead the way. Yeah, I like that idea. Um, because really that's what it's about. If people would just learn to be kind to each other, no matter what your differences are, because ultimately we're really not that different, right? Everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to have some security, everybody wants a lot of the same things. So let's just focus on that and be kind and love one another instead of, you know, do you still pin your live notifications? Do you still pin your live notifications? I'm trying to think what you're saying. Your live notifications. Expand on that, Olga, because I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm not sure what you're asking. But anyway, if someone wants to come on here and go from, zero to hitting the shooting the stars, they can. You just have to have, you have to have a strategy. You have to be willing to take a loss for a while. Because if your goal is to make this your full-time business, that's a different goal than just casually, I'm going to just de-stash and sell when I want to and have fun and enjoy it. That's a wholly different goal. And and how fast you do it, you just decide, but like any other small business, when you start a business, you usually take a loss. When you're going live, do you have your DRAS call notifications when you go live? Well, yeah, that's just based on, if people have their notifications turned on, there's nothing I can specifically do other than have listings. So, like, if you look at the listings in my auction and in my buy it now, I have items that are in every show that are always there. And when someone has put that little, I want to be notified, on a listing, so like this little bell. So, like, see how, like on this listing, attracting and keeping buyers has 34 people that have tagged that listing. So every time I go live with that listing, it will notify them if they have it turned on. Look at the one that has the most. Choosing basic shipping settings, which is now no longer relevant. I have to update it. And then let's see, we've got, let me see what other ones have a lot on it. Shipping 101 46 notification, or people that have tagged it. So yeah, if you have listings that you use over and over that have that little bell on it, that's why, because people have marked that before and it will notify them when you go live. It's technically against terms of service to have one like that because it's not an item that you're ever going to sell. Um, but I used to have one on some Barbie stickers that said that, and then they were like, "Well, technically that's against terms of service because it's not." So I had it combined with an item, but then they kind of said that was bogus. But a lot of people still use it. So yeah, if you want to have one, have one. But you know, so if you want to get notified, just mark one of these items that I have. If you want to get notified when I do this show, just mark one of these that are always in there, and then you'll get notified. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of a stickler for trying to stay within terms of service because I'm a little bit paranoid. I don't want to be the seller who, I don't know, I feel like I'm one of those people that my luck in life is everybody else gets away with something and I never do. So if I do something against terms of service, I'm going to be the one that gets kicked off the platform by the bots. So I'm kind of a rule keeper. A lovely Pinto, same thing. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it. So I try to, I know the rules and I try to live by them as much as possible. And that can be frustrating because I watch other sellers break the rules constantly and nothing ever happens to them. But I don't know. That's kind of how I live. I'm too valuable for them to give you the boot. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. Lovely Pizzle says, if it can happen, it will happen to me. I was having a discussion with my son last night. And my son is literally a genius, like his IQ is through the roof. But he was talking to me about how he's been kind of researching AI and how um, people talk about the internet actually getting to the point where nothing on the internet is actually real anymore because everything's based on AI, based on AI, based on AI. And he was talking in a way that I was like, okay, and my head's kind of going. Um, but he has some valid points about that. Um, because there's Oh, yeah, I do have that ThriftWorks card in there. I can pin it, when I go live, that might help, huh? So, but only 8 people have pinned that, so that one isn't as marked up as some of the other stuff is. So, I guess I can pin the choosing basic shipping settings that's not valid. But yeah, that dead internet theory is kind of interesting. So if you want to get your mind blown and have a conspiracy about that, go read some of that information about it. But I do feel like technology is to the point where, it's very possible. My own little brother worked for how many years? Almost 30 years for a company that it got bought out a couple of different times, but ultimately it was the Samsung Corporation. And he's how many years younger than me? Like 4 or 5 years younger than me. And he just got let go from his job that he'd been at for 30 years because AI is just taking so many jobs away because he he did a lot of things with like graphics and stuff like that. He's a computer person, and yeah, they just laid off half their workforce. So he's, a couple years younger than me, out trying to find a new job. That sucks, you know. So yeah. It's an option on the new beta perks in, let's see, what was she asking about? Let me read it. I never skipped school because if anyone got caught, it would be me. Yeah, same, same. So let me find Joan's question here. Sometimes I see it as green. Oh, when you pin your ThriftWorks card, you get notified when you go live. Okay, yeah. Let's see. I don't see another thing in here from Joe. So I'm not sure what you guys were talking about. Let me know if there's something. So, Dawn's D-Stash graphic designer. That's why I'm on Whatnot. Got laid off, and it's hard to find a new one. Yeah, yeah. I might have to teach my brother Whatnot. I don't know what he would sell, but yeah. Oh, you were in graphics too, in graphic design as well, field trip. So yeah, there's some fields where they're just practically almost gone. And to me, that's scary because what does AI rely on to find things? It relies on other people's original designs. And if no one's designing anything anymore, then AI graphics are going to become very generic really fast because there's the same set of stuff that it can pull from. And honestly, why would designers want to put their artwork out there if it's just getting copied? I wouldn't want my original artwork out there getting copied. I would want to deny AI the privilege of using my artwork. So, I don't know, there's a thought, right? Oh, which reminds me, can you guys see this painting that's on my wall over here? Let me show it to you up close. So I inherited this from my mom. It was something that my dad bought from an artist the year I was born. So if you want to know how old I am, that's the number. Um, but isn't this an interesting piece of art? And I bought some J. Wecker Frizz fabric the other day because it reminded me of this painting. She has a line that she did for Easter. I think it came out last I think it came out this year, but it was designed last year. Anyway, and it has eggs on it, and it has like faces on some of the eggs and some sayings and everything. Um, but my dad bought this painting from a man that he knew who was an artist, and I need to look him up, but I haven't been able to figure out that's his last name, but I haven't been able to actually find him. So it's an interesting painting. I love it. So, and it says 1 dozen eggs minus 10 leaves none but two. And then it has the two egg heads. Isn't that fun? Yeah, we're young chickadees. Yeah, we're young chickadees. Huh? So it's a cool painting. My son took a left turn his senior year in college from engineering to education following his big sister. Ah, so, that's one thing that I think is never gonna go away. I don't think, well, I don't know. I mean, in some aspects, AI has taken a lot of things from education in a scary way, but as long as we still are, hopefully educating our children in person, that will be good, right? All right. Well, I better wrap things up here. Does anyone have any other yeah, engineering jobs are going to be taken over by a lot of that. Yeah. Let's see. I tried to warn a designer claiming that she's the original designer. I know she's not. I have the design that's older than hers. She won't change it. Oh, yeah. See, that's a problem too on a lot of platforms because people will take designs, and if you're the first one to trademark it or register it or whatever, even if you weren't the original designer and you hold the trademark, it screws everybody else out of being able to use that certain design. I know that's a problem on one of those other platforms. So, yeah, what a mess. Yeah, that is crummy. Very crummy. I agree. Texas public education is being destroyed, and I am so thankful I am a retired teacher now. Yeah, I think public education in most states is a mess. So, well, thank you for your purchase. All right, so let's take off for the day. Um, Reminder that this show and all my shows are on YouTube. So if you look at my show notes, there's a talking head in the show notes right here that says, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Draz on Whatnot. That's where you can rewatch all my seller chats. So I multicast onto YouTube so you can um, go rewatch them if you missed them. And you just go into my YouTube channel and go to the lives. So you go to the lives and it will be the latest one. How do you multicast? It's pretty simple. So when you multicast, to multicast, let me show you. All right, so multicasting. Go watch DArchivist video on YouTube about how to set it up exactly, but I'll show you the basics. And so here's my show that's for later today. I'm going to hit the start show button, but I'm not actually going to go live. See this button underneath it says multicast to other platforms. Before you hit go live, tap that. And then if you have Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, I think is the other one, which I don't have. Yeah, those are the three options. Okay, so YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And then if you click the buttons and connect it, now you do have to have, I think YouTube's requirement is 50 subscribers minimum to go live. And then Facebook's is a little bit higher. So if you don't have enough followers, it won't let you go live or multicast yet. But as soon as you have that met, you can multicast. So right now, this show is on YouTube and on Facebook. And what it does for you is it just helps bring more audience to your shows if you have a decent following on those other platforms. So if you go to YouTube, I'll just show you really quick on here. So this is my YouTube channel. So I have my same logo there. And it's best to find it by typing in the ampersand because I'm not famous. So if you type it in with the ampersand, Draz on Whatnot, and then look for my logo, you'll find my channel. And see how we're live. See the live show. We're live on YouTube right now. Okay. And then if you want to watch past shows, you just go to on the menu. See, it has home. Well, it looks different for the other person, but lives is where you want to go, is right there, live. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Let's go find someone to raid. But yeah, DArchivist, if you're having trouble getting it set up, DArchivist has a video on YouTube to help walk you through the different steps. Because once you click that little arrow, you have to link it to your Facebook and link it to your YouTube. And it takes a hot minute sometimes to get them to link up and do everything. And there's sometimes a little few tricks you have to do in the actual YouTube or in the actual Facebook to get it to work. And I actually have mine sometimes glitch out and not work, and I have to reset it. But it's seeming to work today. All right, let's go raid someone. How about, let's see. Let's just go raid. Let's go raid into Cheap Girl. She's awesome. And she's a good example of someone who took advice and ran with it. And she has become the queen of flash sales. And that was one of the things I was really pushing. And she figured it out and took it. And she is the queen of flash sales. So let's go raid into Cheap Girl Fabrics. She's awesome. Leo. And here we go. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. See you soon.